Hey, this is Sober Steve Truesdell. I have 23 years sobriety, and this is only my second video I've made for this channel, and just hoping that I might be able to connect with some people, or if I can help people, that would be great. First thing I want to point out, I'm a huge Michigan football and basketball fan. So if you're a Michigan State or Ohio State fan, I apologize. Actually, if you're an Ohio State fan, you probably don't care because you win every year. But anyway, hence the Michigan memorabilia in the background. This is my little office and where I like to hang out. So anyway, I hope you watched my first video. This video I want to address the question that is probably posed to me more than any other question, and that is, how do you know you're an alcoholic? How do you know if somebody else is an alcoholic? Many people say they think they have a problem. Again, as I said in my other video, I'm going to preface it with, I'm no counselor. I'm not a behavioral therapist. My only expertise is being sober for 23 years, working in recovery groups, attending AA, attending therapy, reading a lot. I've learned a lot of things about this disease. And that question that's posed to me is always a difficult one, because I don't know. I don't know if you're an alcoholic. I don't know if your loved one's an alcoholic. There are some things that you can look for. There are some, common traits and characteristics of alcoholics. A lot of, some of it is genetic. A lot of people believe that, some of it's predisposed. If it's in your bloodline, more than likely it's a combination of genetics and drinking, and social activity over the years. But one thing I did learn in my therapy, and I had a great behavioral therapist. I went to him for like 6 years, and he was a recovering alcoholic, which really I recommend if you ever get into behavioral therapy. If you can find somebody who's in recovery, I would recommend that all the way, because for me, it helped me a lot to know that he had been through the same issues. He truly understood. He wasn't just trying to help me based off the things that he had learned in school. He had lived them. And, until you wear the shoes of an alcoholic, you can't truly know what that's like. Just like if you're a spouse or a child or a sibling of an alcoholic, you can't know what that's like unless you were in those shoes. So oftentimes the family dynamic is a tough one, because there's a lot of bitterness about the alcoholic. And so a lot of times, the therapy that an alcoholic has to go through is quite different than what a family member needs to go through. And we'll talk about that on another recording. But the two things that almost every alcoholic I've ever spoken with, and that I sure had, was number one, the number one signal of somebody that's got a drinking problem or is an alcoholic is that they have difficulty stopping drinking once they start. So you might only drink once a week and you can still be an alcoholic. If you can drink one beer and set it down, and you could care less. You're not even thinking about another beer. Oh, that's enough for me. I'll have one next week. You're not an alcoholic. That I can say. But if you've had a couple and you're just, the wheels are spinning, I can't wait for the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, you could have a problem. And that's something I had at a very early age. I remember my first experience in drinking. I think I was in sixth grade, 11, 12 years old. And my buddy, his parents had a Winnebago in their driveway, and they had some warm Altez beer, nasty, and some brandy, and we drank it. And I remember like the other kids, I felt like they were doing it just to kind of be cool, and that's what they were doing, and just to show off. And we all threw up, and it was nasty, of course, but I liked it. Like from the beginning, I was like, ooh, that's good. And I drank a little bit in 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, and by the time I was in 10th grade, I was full blown. Like anytime I could get my hands on it, I was drinking. And by the time senior year of high school, college, early adulthood, I was in full force. So, but that was always one of the characteristics, was that once I had one, it was over for the night. And then the other thing is, if you have friends and family members that are concerned about you, that talk to you about it, or if you're a friend or a family member and you're worried about your loved one, most of the time, if you're worried, there's reason for it. Most people don't walk around worrying that they might have a problem if they don't have a problem. So that's something I've come across over the years too. There are so many ways that we deny the fact that we're an alcoholic, because a lot of people just have they just aren't educated as to really the simplicity of the disease. They think that, to be an alcoholic or a bad alcoholic, you have to be, homeless and drinking out of a brown paper bag on the street. And so many successful alcoholics, doctors, lawyers, teachers, ministers. I mean, it doesn't matter. You could have 4 master's degrees and make $300,000 a year and completely be an alcoholic. So I just always tell people, try not to, correlate that somebody goes to work every day or that somebody has a good job, or, it doesn't mean that they're not an alcoholic. Now, it is true that as the disease progresses, many people do have issues where it does affect their work and their attendance and their productivity and, everything else in life. But anyway, I'm rambling. I tend to do that. Those 2 key attributes: having difficulty stopping once you start, and then also if people are worried about you. Those are the 2 things that I would look for the most. And the other one is multiple drunk drivings. Anybody can get a drunk driving. It's not excusable. It's against the law. People get killed. You should never drink and drive. But the reality is, so many people have made that mistake over their lifetime, and so many people have gotten a DUI in their lifetime. But if you get multiple ones, if you've ever been through it, which I have, and I have loved ones that have, if you've ever been through it, it's not a pretty sight. And if you are willing to risk doing it again, that probably shows that you have a problem. And I'm guilty here, as I talk to about always saying you could have a problem. Well, the problem is alcoholism, because there is not a difference between having an alcohol problem and being an alcoholic. If you have a problem with alcohol, you're an alcoholic. So and once you determine that you are an alcoholic, there's no magic wand. Unfortunately, it can't be undone. I've never met anybody in my entire life, and especially my 23 years of sobriety, that's been able to control their drinking if they were an alcoholic. People try. You might do it for 6 months. You might do it for a year. Hell, you might do it for 2 years. But people can't, I'm just going to cut down. It doesn't work. They'll cut down to 3 this time, but that motor's running in there where they want more. They think that they have the willpower to cut themselves off at that time. So I hope that that's helpful. Again, I apologize. I ramble, but I don't want this to be scripted. I'm just going off top of my head and from my heart. And that was something that I wanted to address here on my next video. If you made it this far, I would really appreciate if you could subscribe to my channel, and I welcome comments either under the video where we can have some discussion, or if you don't want to put that out there in public, I have an email for the site that is soberstevechannel@gmail.com. That's also on the About button on the YouTube channel. Send me an email anytime. I'd be happy to talk to you, talk to your loved one, discuss anything, answer any questions. Again, I'm not a behavioral therapist, but I have many years of experience in this, and I know that it's a terrifying thing for many. And people don't want to be judged. People are embarrassed. People are in bad parts in their life, and trust me, I've seen it all. I've heard it all. I've lived it all. So there's nothing you're going to tell me that's going to shock me. I can promise you that. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. I will be putting up another video here in the next week, and thanks for the support.